Andy, how you doing?
Not bad, Phil. You? Morning.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Good morning. It's good to see you. Good to speak to you. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell people about it. I don't even care. So when me and Andy were speaking about doing this, I was asked by somebody else, and they said, I think you should talk to this guy. He's called Andy. He works with us. So we had a phone conversation. We was on the phone for about 10 minutes, and we're chatting away. And I was like, "Oh, Andy, I'll give you a call back in a few minutes. I've just got to do this." And then I ring back, and about another 10 minutes into the conversation, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I know who you are now." And all the time, me and Andy have met quite a lot of times. And because no one said it's Andy who you've met, and it was just there's a guy at work called Andy, I just didn't put two and two together. And you said something, and as soon as I heard your voice saying this particular thing, I can't remember what it was. I was like, "Oh wow, what an idiot! I've been chatting for 20 minutes to somebody, and I've known who it is the whole time."
I can just say your honesty is just impeccable. Because if it was me, I'd have just kept that on the wraps and just gone with it and tried to work around it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think out loud too much, and it gets me into trouble sometimes. But yeah, and genuinely, like one of the nicest guys I've met. We've met a few times at different events
Yeah.
through the VRU, which we'll
Yeah.
touch on. You've been seconded over there, so you've been a PCSO for what? Just it's coming up to 13 years now, isn't it?
Yeah. It'll be 13 years in August. August this year, minus kind of a 6 month stint at the VRU. It's kind of the best job I've done in a lot of respects. You've learned a lot about people, and then the work with the VRU was just another strand about learning about people in a different way and meeting such nice people such as yourself.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Can I ask? So, when you started as a PCSO, how different is the role between the 13 years? So, has it changed? Has the sort of the responsibility that you've got and the attitude towards you, has any of that changed?
I think I started with sort of maybe 24, 25. Obviously, working for the police, it was a massive organisation. It was before all the cuts and all the recession stuff the first time around. So it kind of blew my mind, the resources and what was available and stuff like that, and the team I worked on. And then over time, that kind of dwindled through people, moving on or lack of recruitment. It just dwindled and dwindled. And I always worked in the same sort of community, and um, responsibilities changed because I guess you had to take more on. I think some people said you had to work, you had to do more with less, which is obviously a little bit daunting. But I went from a team of kind of working on a team of, let's say, 20 at one go down to a team of maybe 6 or 7. And how that was spread out on the shifts, there was a period of time when it was just myself on one period of time on a late shift. So you kind of have to, you can't go around thinking you kind of, he-man or trying to lock people up. You don't have that as a PC, so your role is more to build neighborhood links, get intelligence, but also just deal with kind of low-level crime. Low-level crime, I don't mean that to sound bad, but like kind of, thefts, shed break-ins, someone's on the stat nav stolen or car broken into. So it was that kind of thing. But then with the cuts, the volume of that you had to deal with was kind of more and more, and it came to a little bit of a juggling between dealing with all those calls and then having to do that community link side of you point of view. And I like that community side, so going into primary schools, speaking to a couple of people in tower blocks of flats, because I found that the older people in tower blocks of flats, whilst a lot of people kind of perceive them as kind of they're just old days, they have windows and they have plenty of time on their hands, and they tend to log quite a lot of activity, what was going around and stuff like that. So they all quite liked kind of having someone to at least give that information to, so they felt like they were doing something. And one thing, as unfortunately I had the experience of having to kind of be present throughout a colleague's funeral as well, which most people won't really have that in their working experience. It's kind of he passed away suddenly, but funeral was on shift, and we all were outside manning the gates of a church, and it threw it down with rain, and he would have loved that because he likes everyone to be getting wet if he was dry somewhere. But it's kind of that's quite a unique experience. But we all of us that were around then have all moved on and whatever. But we always have that in common, and we always kind of look at that because he was quite well liked. Was the guy that passed away.
Yeah.
For myself, I worked quite hard on trying to be a people person as such, try and kind of fit in. Obviously,
I think when it started, there was some confusion because I worked for a company called Metro, and we run the security in the bus stations across West Yorkshire, and we was assigned 8 PCSOs. So it'll have been around 2 years before you started when
yeah,
when PCSOs first became a thing. So we was assigned them, but there was a lot of confusion about who they were, what they could do,
good deal. Yeah,
and it was sort of there was this real awkward teething process where sort of people who we were sort of working against, I guess is the best way to do it.
yeah,
We'd bring PCSOs in and they would view them as police, but then the more they got to know that the PCSOs couldn't arrest back then, it was more about sort of trying to de-escalate a situation, show
yeah,
a police presence, and it was hectic. It was really hectic. But
yeah,
some of the best people I've worked with in the last few years have been PCSOs. There's a couple that do so much brilliant community work, and anytime we're doing anything, we always bring PCSOs on board because of that sort of local knowledge, the relationships they have with either people or organisations, and just
yeah,
their sort of mindset of we're not here to arrest people and tell them where they're going wrong or what have you. It's more about that sort of that personal relationship.
yeah. I think a lot of the time I've met people, I've always tried to just be the same person I am with you, and just all right, kind of don't. If people don't sort of give me any shit, I don't kind of give them any shit. If they're doing what they're doing, they're doing what they're doing. But obviously, you have to do your role, and I always prefer to just rather than kind of running amok and causing issues and having to call for backup. You have to do that a few times, but I tend to just kind of get snapshots of pictures of puzzles and stuff like that, and then I always fed that in. And if they were going to get bracelets put on them, there'll be someone else, and that's my way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I've always taken my hat off to anyone that wants to be a PC and wants to do that and go in and arrest people and that kind of stuff. But in the time I've done all that, I've been on a few things that have gone a little bit wrong, and I don't know. I've always been of the mindset you're going to get slotted one day, and I just don't want. I just don't want that. It's not my. I'm a people person. Obviously, not everybody in life you meet is going to like you. I'm fully aware of that. That's just the world, isn't it? And I don't know. Yeah, it was all right. I think the area I worked was sound. It was busy enough for me. And yeah, you do get people that, take the piss and shout whatever and, I don't know, call you whatever they want to call you. Normally, never on their own and normally never straight up to your face. It's always some distance away. But I always kind of thought, well, fair enough. I'm sure I'll see you again at some point and then we'll have a chat later on. So that's been my way of doing it. But I do think it's people, and you're not always there in the context of locking them up. Sometimes people disclose things about, they've been abused, and you've got to look at that, or their mental health isn't brilliant. You've got to look at that, and I don't think, from my point of view, I have not always seen that from someone turning up in a big van, thinking, "Shit, I'm going to get locked up." It's just a different way, So yeah.
Yeah, one thing that makes me cross is when you see like the police will post, like police are active on Twitter, and I love that. And sometimes they're sarcastic, and I love that even more. Like to show some sort of sense of humour for such
Yeah.
a serious job, I think it's brilliant, and it makes them human. We see police as these forces rather than as people. And we always like on being a biker. I've got a lot of friends who have motorbikes on, and they'll see a speed camera van. It's like, shouldn't you be out catching rapists and burglars? And I'm just like, yeah, but there's a team for that. These are highway police. This is their job. This is what they're told to do. There's different departments that cover different things. So there is probably a team out there that are catching rapists and burglars as you're typing that message, but not these guys.
I think it's you can only deal with what's put in front of you, and by the same token, it's kind of personal responsibility for people. And I don't go out of my way to cause grief for anybody. I just go. People ring and I go and deal with the calls. If there's no calls for me to deal with, I will go and have a community day and bob into my places and see what's going on and keep myself relevant. But if something happens en route to that, you're kind of duty bound to do what you need to do and deal with that. And that's kind of the end of it. I know people don't like that, but
Yeah.
Have
you ever had to deal with anything while you're not at work?
Yeah, unfortunately. I say unfortunately because it was really unfortunate. There was an incident in the bus station a few years ago. I don't know how long now. And someone got stabbed. And I was coming back from the track. Used to do a little bit of running with a colleague on my days off. And basically, I just saw this person step from a shop front that was closed and drop a knife. And then I saw a pool of blood drop on the floor, like from her arm, just a little droplet. And I remember I was walking back, and I call him an old dude. There was an older person, old lady walking behind me with shopping bags, and I said, "Did you just see that?" She said, "Yeah." Picked up this like sort of carving knife. I said, "Do us a favour, just cross over the road." And I just got on the phone and started ringing, and then they made their way up around to the front of the market, and I saw a couple of PCSOs, so I hung up and just sort of mouthed, "That person's got a knife," and we kind of challenged them, and they got arrested eventually. And it turns out the person they stabbed wasn't who they thought they were. They had a bit of an episode and acted a bit out of it. But I think the thing that I always remember distinctly was, because my shift pattern's 7 days on, 3 off, 7 days on, 4 off. I was on my last day off before going back for 7 days, and I'm allowed to swear on this.
Yeah, of course you are.
My initial thought was, "Fuck's sake, I'm not having it work here." That was my initial thought, and that was put in my statement because the person that took the statement from me said, was they wanted realism. How long ago it was, Milgarth was still there, so it's a while ago now, to be fair. But yeah, it was. I did my bit. You didn't really think, but I just thought I don't want her to harm anybody. Well, I didn't know by her. I mean, I don't want the old dear behind me to get harmed. I don't want the person with the knife to harm anybody. I don't want anything to come and happen to me. You know what I mean? It's just not what you want, but you have to do something. So yeah, that was one thing. I generally don't go looking for trouble when I'm not at work because that's just not me.
Yeah.
I like spending time with my wife, and that's me pretty much, and my mates.
Yeah. So what's the sort of downsides to it? Have you had any sort of negative experiences?
Yeah, I kind of I suppose I got used to being on my own quite a lot because of where the team dynamics were. So I used to work on my own quite a lot. I used to think I'm quite all right at maybe speaking to people and find out what's going on and whatnot. But there's been times where because I'm kind of non-white, it's quite easy for people to say, "Oh, look, someone shouted once, 'Oh, look, there goes a bit of bacon. It's a little bit burnt.'"
Oh wow!
On the street, I mean, in a kind of a barbecue in the garden, and I kind of sort of walked on. And I kind of thought, well, I don't know who said it. There's maybe 4 or 5 of them. I didn't see who said it. What do? You kind of have to weigh things up, and I just kind of thought, I'm not going to turn around and give them satisfaction. I'm just going to crack on and just carry on my radio as I was. And then I've had a little bit of I suppose sort of abuse from a youngster at one point, and this person was quite young, and for whatever reason he wasn't in school. I didn't really do anything. I just knew where he lived, so I just got told to jump in the van and show us where he was. And he said to me, "Open the door, slave." I says, "You what?" He said, in the old days, monkey, you'd have been my slave, now open the door." And at the age I was, maybe 35, got out. Kind of a couple of my colleagues, they were all right, to be fair. They asked me if I was all right, and I just said, yeah, and I just cracked on walking, but I was fuming. I was absolutely fuming. Felt like quitting. Because he was the age that I'd been doing the job for, which was kind of around 11 years at the time. I just thought, he don't know much about the slave trade or whatever, and he's clearly heard that. and he's thrown it at me. But it wasn't that; it was the fact that I got so angry.
How old was this person?
11.
11-year-old, and he said that to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So for my issue was the anger that I felt. I felt kind of quite. It bothered me that I had so much anger to someone so young, you know. And I've got a nephew that's the same age. Do you know what I mean? You wouldn't dream of any harm to your nephew, but I would have really. I don't know. It was just difficult to wrestle with, and that goes internal. And then, you know, I'm married. My wife's she's white, so we're in a mixed race relationship. There's no issue there. But I felt really isolated in going back to the station being majority white officers, and I'm thinking, what do I do here? You know, I kind of thought, well, that could come from anywhere. And I've never really had that. In my time, I've only kind of had probably 5 counts of sort of racism thrown at me in my time. But 3 of them have been in the last 3-4 years, and that makes me worry. Is that a societal thing?
Yeah, it's
You know what I mean?
getting
So I went 10 years and I had 2. Okay, 2 times someone said something to me. But they were, you know, they were kind of grown men. You know, you can say back, you can say whatever you want back, you can argue with them, you can get them, you know, locked up eventually, and all that kind of stuff, and they understand what they're saying. But someone that young, it's just bad, you know.
Yeah, it worries me where that's been learnt from. You know,
Yeah.
he's obviously hearing things to make that an acceptable thing, because I can't imagine that coming from a film or a computer game.
No. And if I'd have gripped him and put him in the van, because he was kind of like, I suppose, nicking off school is the right term for it. And, you know, I'm not saying I could understand it, but I could see why in his mind he wanted to lash out. But I just simply got in the back of the van and I just knew where he lived. You know, I didn't do anything more. But obviously you're conscious of you wearing the uniform. So I was very conscious of you can't act out, you can't say anything. But just wrestling with that was difficult for a period of time. But, you know, now I'm at a stage where I can talk about things. So the damage it did was kind of, I was able to get it out there. But, yeah, just that anger, I didn't like that.
So what was the thought process? So you said that you nearly quit. So you was obviously thinking about walking away from the job. So what made you stay?
I went for a really, really long walk. I was just seething. I just couldn't kind of fathom how all my time in that 11 years of doing that role since that lad was born, how it got to that. Do you know what I mean? And basically, I went back to the station, and the sergeant I wanted to speak to tell was on a conference call, and I had to wait on for him because, you know, I was to tell him. And this sergeant's known me since day one, and I guess he could kind of see that I get told quite often I'm quite a calm person. I'm quite relaxed and fairly well balanced, and obviously I think he could quite see that I wasn't like that. And he just talked to me. He just talked to me and, you know, said, look, best I can't pretend to say I know what you're going through. I know you haven't been slotted. I know you've not been attacked, but it's a verbal attack, and it's what you're feeling. So we talked about it, and he said, look, just kind of take a bit of time out and see how you feel, which I did. I took some time out and I went for a kind of a ponder. I took the rest of the day off and just kind of thought, is it worth throwing away what I've done for so long? A job that I like, a job that's given me a lot of opportunities, travel and whatnot, you know, and provided me with a certain lifestyle. And I decided to just carry on. But it's not an easy decision to kind of let that slide. Do you know what I mean?
So you say there's sort of a handful, at least 5 incidents while you've been at work. Has this been something that you've had incidents with away from work, or before you started being a PCSO? Is it something?
Yeah, I kind of I suppose when I was it varies and society changes, and I suppose when you're older you recognise what you have to lose. So, you know, I was in a certain bar, not in Leeds, somewhere, you know, walked in just to get myself and my wife a drink. You know, you're at the bar, just like normal. Nothing to say, no one knows you. It's just a Saturday afternoon. And I heard someone shout from the other side of the bar, "You serving him first?" And I looked over and I was like, well, the barman's clearly seen me there, what's going off, you know? And then this fella there just shouted something like, you know, you shouldn't serve that black XYZ. And I'm like thinking, you don't need this. I'm on a Saturday. It's a city I don't know. my then fiance sat in there with me. What do you do? What do you do? And looked over, and this guy's got maybe 2 or 3 guys with him. Bear in mind, I don't know who else he's got in the pub with him. I kind of thought, do you want a ruckus? Do you not? What do you do? I just give the barman the money and said, look, you just keep that, no problems. And the barman even tried to apologise. I was like, it's not your fault, mate. No worries. See you later. I just walked out, and as I walked out, there's probably a little bit more. But the relationship I have now, you know, my partner's aware if I just say we want to go, well, it's going to get a bit dicey, we'll just get up and go. Which, if I was younger, it was probably different minded. I probably would have acted differently. And that's quite hard because I'm not saying I've squared that off myself, but it's just difficult. But obviously, you get into a fight, you get locked up, you might get your head kicked in. You know, is it kind of.
Yeah, and you're giving them the reaction that they're trying to get as well. And it's hard to sort of, when it's something so personal like that, it's hard to remember the right thing to do. And you want to sort of, because when that anger comes inside you, the easiest way to get it out is to sort of lash out. And
Yeah.
and it's the bigger we get after. Like, I understand what you're saying about when with the young kid, if he was angry, you'd understand, because when we get angry and we're if I'm face to face with someone and we're having an angry argument and that person is fat or ginger or wearing glasses, then my insults are going to be visual representations of that person.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
But for somebody with no reason, there's no anger, it's just that's their thoughts. That's just how they think. That's what they think is acceptable to say to somebody, whether it be in a public place or not. And that's the worst part of it, I think.
I think the thing for me was that he's that age, is 11. You know, what's he going to be like by the time he's 14, 15? You know, it's difficult. And then I kind of think from a professional point of view, I suppose fear for him, because if you say that in the wrong place, Chapel Down, Harrows, the wrong person for whatever reason, you can, you know, people aren't going to be act with certain restraint, are they? You know, they just wouldn't. Whereas for me, I just kind of thought, it's quite weird because you're wearing a San Francisco top currently, and I was going to San Francisco about a week later, and that kind of was getting into my thoughts. I was thinking, it's so weird. I just want to see the Golden Gate Bridge, and I've luckily had the privilege to see that, but I kind of thought, somewhere in the back of my mind was saying, if you do out here, you won't be seeing that Golden Gate, you won't be flying on Virgin, you won't be doing all that kind of stuff, you know. And it's one of those things. So luckily, I have some coping mechanisms or something was inside me that was able to do that. I understand a lot of people can't. I understand it's an emotive thing and people just react. But as you say, it's that reaction that people want. But I don't think that 11-year-old lad wanted me to react. You know, what was I, 32 years old? You know, fairly. There's a bit of a height difference, a bit of a weight difference. You know, it's kind of a. And then I even thought of it. I thought kind of like, you know, if I was to do something to lash out, what would the headlines be in the papers? What would all that be? You know, you read the context. Some people might say, well, yeah, you know, it's not right, X, Y, Z, but then the others that'll say, you're getting paid to do a job, you should be professional and you should take that. Well, I have to be professional, but you don't have to take it, do you?
You're also a human. This is the thing.
Yeah.
Media is brilliant at that. We're currently working on a project with a live theatre thing. So the topic is 14-year-old boy arrested for drug dealing. So straight away, if that was a real headline, people are, well, he obviously wasn't brought up properly, it's his parents, it's this. So it's a live theatre thing where people come and watch and we'll meet mum. Mum will be one of the characters that's cross-examined, and mum's going to be like a teacher. So it's about, all right, so how has he ended up like this?
Yeah.
Who are the people in his life that's influenced this? Just to sort of challenge some of those media stereotypes. So
yeah. Because everybody has a story, and everybody has, I call them those kind of, I suppose, I call them pinch points. So what you have as a security is stability at a moment in time of crisis or a major decision in your life. If one of those pinch points, one of those things that kept you making the better decision was gone, what would you do? And that's a simple, you know, so people that are I don't know, some sort of high-flying solicitor versus someone else might have had various pinch points to it, and they could have ended up on the same path. And but it's just about being open to that and realizing that and recognizing that,
Yeah. So how were you brought up with sort of being able to talk about stuff? How,
No,
no.
no, it's not. That's not really the kind of for me anyway. My experience, my household. No, that wasn't the way I was able to do stuff. It wasn't. My family is not really. It's not like that. You just kind of get on with stuff. Do you know what I mean? You leave school, you get a job. You do what's what. You don't bring shame to the door or any kind of grief to the door. And I'm the youngest, so by kind of 10 years.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I just had to occupy myself really. I guess I had, good parents, good mum, good dad. Dad passed away when I was 20, and
Go on, sorry.
it's just, I guess that was the time when I could have, I suppose maybe if I was going to act out and do something, then yeah, that would have been it. But I'm pretty boring, to be honest with you.
What about sort of your life today? So you talk about sort of how people have been treating you through your relationship and stuff. So do you have any concerns about being in a mixed race relationship?
At first, it was difficult because obviously, when you meet someone, you kind of think, "Yeah, this person's all right." I never thought I'd get married. I never thought I'd.
This person's all right. Is she gonna hear this?
she knows. I know. She knows I always say that. But things are going well, and you just think, well, is there a reason not to kind of commit and kind of cement this? But I always believe if you have the opportunity to do something, you should do it the right way. And I went up and asked for her hand in marriage, and that for me was a big thing because at first when I met her family, her parents. Before I met them, they knew I was black.
Yeah.
So they knew my name was, they knew me, and I kind of thought, right, okay. And we had this conversation. I said, well, so why do they know that I'm black? And then you have other conversations about, are there many black people? And there's not a great many black people in the Northeast where this person grew up. And I kind of thought, wow, how's this going to go down here? Leeds is quite multicultural.
Was it a concern that they're one of the things that she mentioned about you?
Maybe I just kind of thought, you kind of say to your parents, oh, I'm seeing this new guy. Oh, it's called Andy. All right.
Yeah.
And then they'll straight away the colour of his skin's mentioned. So I'm like, well, what's that about? What's that about? Yeah. There was nothing behind it. It was just, I guess it's just. So I kind of thought, why so you're getting into this, and she ever been out with a guy that's sort of known white before and wouldn't know? And I'm kind of thinking, so if this goes long term and goes well, it's kind of changing her family dynamic quite massively because I don't know him very well. But obviously, over time, it's all fine. There's no issues. But yeah, I was conscious of that. In terms of relationships, I enjoy going to gigs and stuff, and I go to gigs with my brother. Me and my brother both like the Prodigy. We both quite love the Prodigy. I'm not sure we'll get a chance to see him again. But we once went to one of the concerts. So obviously, there's two guys there that are both black and both there, just doing what you're doing. I'm a bit boring. As I said, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything I kind of shouldn't.
It's not boring because I'm the same.
it's a bit straight edge.
The new cool. That's what it is.
But then, so you're at this gig, and people come up to you. It's crowded. There's a few thousand people. People come up to you saying, "Have you got anything?" I'm like, "Well, got what? I've got my house keys. What do you mean? Have I got anything?" "Oh no, sorry, mate. I didn't sort of mean anything." Going off and asking me if I've got. And my brother turned and said to me, said, "You know what? If we were all here in our work uniforms, so don't even come near you." Says that's the thing.
Yeah. Because
you're at this gig here, and you kind of there's this assumption that you must be knocking something out. I haven't joked and said maybe I should get some bags and put some sherbet dip in or something. You know what I mean? But but someone to come near you and just go, "What? Have you got out?" And when you turn around and go, "Well, got what? I've got my house keys." "Oh no, I didn't mean I'll buy it." "Well, why did you ask me?"
Yeah, it'd be funny if you got your wallet out and said what you after, and then just pulled out your warrant card instead of drugs.
Yeah, he always likes that. Remember, he always remembers that because it's happened a couple of times. But he said just then how close and how kind of how delicate the person was of asking me. Then when I said, "Well, got what? I've got my house keys," it just flipped like that. I've had, when I was younger, I've had I've seen a guy sort of looking at me, and to be fair, I was honest, I was looking at his girlfriend, but I didn't know they were together. She was all right, and he kind of sent his girlfriend up to ask me if I've got her, and I was like, "What?" And I just laughed and says, "Look, I ain't got anything, but if I was kind of if I was in business, it's not good to give discounts, even if you're pretty." So, do you know what I mean? It's kind of, you know, and you kind of remember these things because obviously, you know, you're out, just, you know, your Coke, your water, whatever, as in Coca-Cola, that is, or Diet Coke, not anything else.
Yeah.
And I always remember those moments because I'm like thinking, so I'm at a gig, I'm here for the music, I've paid my ticket, and people are still asking me these kind of questions.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the labels, like when you're talking about meeting your missus' parents. So I have similar situations where I just think. So when I came home from prison, I moved back to my mum's, and then I was meant to move out in the summer last year, and one pot of funding fell through, so I wasn't earning enough to be able to. It's a bad thing about having a sort of CIC in the third sector. You never know where sort of money's coming from, so you might have a few months where you're like $3,500 a month, and then you're on $1,000 a month. So it's just sort of, it's hit and miss. And how do you go to buy a house when you don't know if you're going to have an income in 6 months? You're still going to have a company, but you don't know what the income is going to be. It's a real pain. So I always think, all right, so I meet a new girl. I'm like, yeah, my name's Phil. I'm 36. I'm a drug addict. I've been to prison twice. I live with my mum. It's sort of like, how do you sell that one to somebody? Mum, I've met a new guy. Oh, have you? Tell me about him.
You've got to, I think a lot, I suppose, nowadays as well, in most areas, how you present and how you are as a person when you first meet someone says a lot about you. But I think in that one area of romance and kind of getting the parents' approval and all that kind of stuff, it's just, what can you do?
But then I could say the same for you. Like, anyone who meets you would not have anything negative to say about you. But if somebody paints a picture of either you or your past before you get the opportunity to say, this is me, this is what your daughter fell in love with, you know, it's this is me today. I'm only able to do all the things I'm doing today because of all that bad stuff that happened before.
You got to go through things, haven't you?
Yeah, this is it. I don't get that opportunity for them to meet me first and then start to find out, oh, so tell me about your company. Why is it that you do that? And I'd like that to be a more of a natural conversation than sort of them having that. And tattoos as well, obviously. You know, you turn
so
up.
I've got one arm tattoo. You can't really see it on there, but I've got one arm tattoo. But that's again another thing where people have, you know, they have views on people with tattoos, and I'm like, all right, what's your view? Well, you're going to be up to X, Y, Z. Like,
this is it. Beard, motorbike, tattoos. They all come with their own little, you know, you took in prison and drugs along with that, and you just think, wow, what is my daughter doing with this person?
But you know, I always believe, as I said, you know, you've got to go through things to get to where you are, and you've got to kind of acknowledge what you've been through to really appreciate where you are now. And you know,
I was having this conversation yesterday, I think it was, just about before I started taking drugs. 20-year-old, I was an area manager of a security company. So if I'd never touched drugs, I'd probably have a really nice house and car and you know, a very sort of financially well-off life. But I won't be doing anything fun. Like if someone said to me, do you want to start a podcast? And I'd just be like, to talk about what? The importance of getting up and going to work every day. Because that's the only thing that I would potentially have in my life worth talking about.
I had a friend that he kind of lost a parent similar time to mine, and they got into quite a lot of debt. You know, never crazy on it. Well, I say never crazy about, not for 10 grand's worth of debt, and the shame he felt of that. You know, his family don't know about that, and he just worked all the hours to clear it and clear it and clear it and clear it. And, you know, he kind of didn't see him much. It was a case we kind of drop him a message every so often. How you doing? Yeah, I'm still, you know, I'm at this point here. I'm digging myself out a bit slowly. But he said meeting a partner and living at home and being kind of the age I am now. So what was he then? He would have been maybe, he ran up this 24, 25, into his 30s. People just judge you straight away. He was like, you know, I'm not some kind of dosser. I just had a bad time, and he didn't know how to open up about it. But he said he didn't want to pay it off straight away. He just wanted to pay it off gradually and gradually and gradually. And then as soon as he did pay it off, he just went part-time. So I just don't want to work like that anymore. I just want more free time. And, you know, he's all right now, but the shame he felt of that, and he's like, you know, letting people down. And I don't know, we always talked, and he always really appreciated that time of talking. I guess now I'm older, I kind of look back and think, well, yeah, he actually does. And, you know, he came to my wedding and he shook me hand and he's like, you know what, I just want to say thank you. And he gave me a little something at the wedding. I was like, you know, I kind of said, look, you don't, you know, it's like, listen, I'm all right now, don't worry about it. You kind of feel a bit bad, don't you? Because kind of think, I don't want to slight him by not accepting this little wedding gift from him. But then I'm thinking, is he all right? Is he telling me he's all right and he's not? Yeah. But I just have to accept the gesture. And you appreciate things like that now, and kind of, you know, sort of two years married, kind of think, yeah, he's all right. He's all right now. He's got someone. He's got a flat with him. He's quite happy. But he always calls that his dark passenger kind of thing. He used to watch one of the TV shows, and he calls it from that. And it's like
Dexter.
Dexter, yeah. So he called that. He says that period of time I felt with that debt, I was saddled with it. It was unbelievable, you know, like having to just kind of pay his mum board money. He couldn't do anything flash, couldn't go on holiday, didn't go out, didn't do nothing, you know, he just read a lot. He said that helped him, and just the occasional chat with mates. But he always says, look, I'm at peace with that now. I'm at peace with that. I could have done something stupid running up that debt, he said, but if he'd just been aware of opening up and talking to people more, and he was the mindset he is now, he could have dealt with that so much differently.
Yeah, I think
it was credit cards as well. That's all it was. It was credit cards. He just ran off. Yeah,
we have this really good ability of sort of talking up our own problems and believing that no one else is going through the same things. So we feel like we're isolated, and we're expecting ourselves to deal with every situation that's going wrong. And then when you start talking to people about stuff, and you just think, like when I did the steps, one of the steps is admitting the worst things you've ever done to one other human being. So you have a sponsor and you sit with them and you tell them the worst things that have happened in your life, and all these things, like the build up to that. So you obviously, you know, when you're going to see them and what you're going to be talking about. So you're sat and you're like, oh, I can't tell somebody so much stuff. Oh my, can you imagine his face or her face when I say that, you know, this happened or that happened? And then you sit with them and you tell them and they go, is that it?
Yeah.
Is that it? Are they the worst things that have? And it just sort of makes you realize that, you know, we're not these horrible people, and all these problems aren't big, huge things. And nowadays, 2020, no matter what issue you have in your life, there's organizations that are out there that are funded to help. I've not found one person with an issue that there isn't an organization that's set up to specifically help them with that problem.
Yeah, and that's the good thing. But obviously, I think, as you say, you know, when you have that problem, you only have your own inner monologue. I think certainly a lot of the youngsters that, you know, we encounter, they are kind of maybe solidified by that. They feel, I can't let this out because it is going to be viewed as weakness, or, you know, the reputation is more important, or there'll be consequences. But when you accept you're in a hole, and you accept you're in a hole, that's your starting point, isn't it? And then you can start taking steps to get out of that. And I wish I could go back and communicate that with myself at a younger age with certain people I've met, because I don't know, maybe it's just a maturity thing, maybe it's just having good people around you. But I've always now been an advocate of just speaking about problems and issues.
Yeah,
and not everyone's like that.
Massive. And you know, part of the biggest part of NA is being in a meeting and listening to other people talk about the stuff that they've been through and identifying the same things with you. So we're not special, you know. We're not unique. Our thought process is the same as everyone else in the same situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to ask you about your T-shirt. Obviously, people aren't going to be able to see it.
It's Chemical Brothers t-shirt.
Yeah. So how was the music you listened to? Where's that come from? What was your influence?
So the music I kind of grew up with in the house was kind of reggae, which I can't stand personally. One of my brothers, he like used to listen to mixtapes and demos and stuff, and when he'd go out, I'd put them in and start playing them, and you think you're all right, don't you? And then sort of tape got chewed up and whatever, and it got all unrolled, and I started panicking. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I just took it out and put it back in the box, as if he's not going to notice his tapes like all unraveled and back in the box. And he sat me down, he spoke to me, he was like, will you play this? I was like, yeah, that's a like. He was like, okay, I'll leave them out and I'll put them in for you and just play them. And from that, I just grew that ability to listen to music. And I suppose mine's more, it's kind of dance music. I follow one kind of DJ who was DJing, I suppose, in the early 90s, and he's still DJing now. He's in his 50s, I would imagine. But obviously, dance music's changed, and I've always found it's just your mood. It just suits my mood, whatever journey it takes you on.
Just 1 second.
Phil, so the packs are made up.
Yeah.
Pencils and plants.
Yeah.
The ones that we made up, those cards aren't in there. Should they go in there?
Yeah, I don't know how many of them are left. You'll run out of them before you run out of packs.
Right, so
but whatever's left, put them into some of them.
And then on this side, we've got them made up, there's no plants to put them in there again.
Yeah, so they need a plate with all that stuff.
Yeah.
The coloured pencils, one of them, one of the paper packs, and a plant. And then we'll sort the cheese and the sauce and the dough ball out after. All right. No worries, pal. Cheers, mate. Sorry again.
It's all right. No,
we were meant to be working this week. We were meant to be done, and then someone asked for 70 more packs, so we've had to come back and carry on making them. So,
wow.
So who is the DJ? Do you want to mention him?
There's a few. There's an old DJ called Carl Cox, a Sasha. My favourite's a DJ called John Dickweed, and he's in lockdown. Because he can't get out. He's been doing these sort of bunker sessions,
right?
Where I guess he just comes on at 9 o'clock and he just plays whatever. It's quite a mixture from stuff made today to stuff made back in the 2001 to back in the 90s, and he just does a mix, and it's quite nice just to sit. Well, for me anyway, to sit down and just float through it, and I just kind of gives me that reset time. Do you know what I mean? Just it's something I've always done as a young age, and it never changes. And it has the same importance to me. I don't really go for kind of big music videos or stuff like that, because I never heard music with a video. I just heard music, and that was it. It was just, a lot of the stuff there were no videos to it. There was no image about it. It was just pretty much, this is a mix. Here you go. If you like it, listen to it, or if not. But yeah, and then as I got older, and you start listening to bands and stuff, I like quite a lot of the indie bands. But I've been told by one or two people I'm not a very I've been told this by a black person, actually, I'm not a very stereotypical black guy. I'm more a white guy, and I'm like...
You mentioned car music with your wife.
Yeah. So my wife likes quite a lot of... she likes Beyonce, she likes Justin Timberlake, she likes quite a lot of Snoop, Jay-Z, all that kind of stuff. So in summertime, we sat down, the windows are down, music's on. I imagine people would look in. It's probably a bit of a stereotype or perception issue I have of myself, but people looking and think, oh, look at her, she's kind of like letting him listen to his music, whereas mine would just be...
That was the stereo.
Yeah, it's just kind of, mine would be, I don't know, 80s music to indie music to, my dance music that I like, but I don't like rap or R&B and all that. It's just not for me.
Right. See, I when I was little, when I was in primary school, my mum was in a band with her three sisters called Sister Act, and they used to do all Motown music. So if you've seen the film Sister Act, it's that type of stuff.
So happy childhood.
Say again.
Very happy childhood.
Yeah, we never sort of went without. We weren't well off, but we never went without. Mum and Dad are still together, which is unusual these days. But yeah, two older sisters, knew all the words to the Motown songs, just from them rehearsing at our house when we used to come home. And then I started doing inline skating, and it changed to sort of Blink-182, Limp Bizkit, stuff like that. And then I went,
You tell me Avril Lavigne next.
yeah, all that sort of stuff. And then it was Dr. Dre, Eminem, Exhibit, things like that when I left school. And then drugs made me listen to house music and electro. And then since then, I don't really listen to new music now. If I'm out on the bike, I just have what tracks are on my phone playing through the headset. I never get a chance to listen to radio. I don't watch MTV or any sort of music channels. So I don't really get new music. I don't know what it is. If you played me a few songs, I would not have a clue who they are because I'm never exposed to it. So
Yeah.
all I've got on my phone now is the old like R&B stuff, like the
So you're,
Exhibit, the Dr. Dre.
you're in your vault. Someone told me as you get older, you've got a vault with all your music, and all your music's going in that you've had throughout years and whatever, and you stack it all up and so nice, and that's so important to you. And as you get older, that vault door starts to close because you just think, I'm not too fussed.
But then I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, kids these days and the music, it's all just boom, boom, boom. I don't want to be that guy. But when I swapped phones, but when I had an iPhone with iTunes, we'd be having a conversation and someone would say, I'd be like, oh, do you remember that song? And then I'd just go on iTunes and buy it. So I had like, do you remember Totally Addicted to Bass, where the two cars were racing? Like just randomly, I'd just download that song and then that'd be part of my playlist. And 21 Seconds to Go.
Wow.
So Solid Crew.
Yeah.
But just to like songs, because that's what music is for me. It reminds me of stuff. So all the sort of indie music that I can go back and listen to reminds me of when we used to go skating and that's the downside. So I worked on the doors at the cockpit for a while, and that really got me back into sort of newer indie music. From what I used to
Subway's there a couple of times. Cockpit when it was open.
Yeah, it was a different place. But then they started opening up other sort of indie type bars in Leeds.
Yeah.
And a couple up at the uni, so it just got less busy. But I loved that. I loved working there. But yeah, it's the reason why I don't listen to dance music anymore, because it's really easy for me to remember all the fun that we had whilst out in clubs taking drugs, and the music reminds me of those good times. Because do you remember when you was with that particular person in that particular club and you were just at that peak, and then that song came on and you were both just like, yes, this is ace.
It's so weird because people have said to me, how can you listen to the kind of music you listen to and just be stone cold sober, just know nothing? And I just say to them that's how I've always listened to it. I don't.
Yeah.
There's nothing to change.
I've seen some people proper dancing out to Prodigy, like really sort of. You'd imagine it like you could change the music to proper like headbanging, Slipknot or Korn type stuff, and they're really going for it. And it's to Prodigy, and it's like when you get into that zone, like there's certain music. There's a band called Hadouken. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
There's a few of those songs. I went to a few nights and they played like, I don't even know what you'd call that. It's like rock music with rap lyrics.
Rap, yeah.
Yeah, it's just
not my kind of thing, but yeah.
On drugs, it was absolutely brilliant. You put them on now, and I'd just be a bit like, oh, this is a bit uncomfortable to listen.
Yeah, I like the kind of, I suppose the DJ I've liked with him having the ability to go back and dig through his selection from the early 90s all the way up to now and still. I guess it's quite an eclectic because it goes from maybe to house up to progressive house to techno back down to really like sort of breakbeat and then back to something else. It's been quite interesting listening to just him playing whatever he wants to play rather than just playing in a club for a set 2 hours at a certain time where he's got to fill that time. It's been interesting, but yeah, I don't know. I've always liked music, but then there's other days come home here, there's like Tears for Fears and whatnot, belting out all 80s stuff, it's kind of, because that reminds me of being a kid. Right. It reminds me of being small and whatnot, and I don't know. I never thought I'd like 80s.
It's weird, isn't it? It's so weird. Yeah. It can have such a positive effect, and then it's things like you hear a song at a funeral, and then it takes you back to that funeral every time. My sister once wrote me a letter, and it was about a song it's called How to Save a Life. I can't remember who sings it.
Not sure.
It's The Summer. I'm sure it's The Summer. But the words in it, she said, I was ironing one day and this song came on and I just started crying, and it just made me think like, this is my feelings towards you and using drugs. And I can't listen to the Fray. They're called the
Okay,
Fray.
yeah.
Real
Heard of them.
life. And I can't listen to it now. It's just ruined that song for me. It's had that negative impact where I'm transported to being my sister thinking about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think only music does that to you. I think I don't know if there's anything else. So for me, anyway, that I can think of that can just kind of change your mood instantly.
I'd like to, obviously, as a poet, throw that in there, but it's words. You know,
Yes.
music. There's obviously a tempo and a beat to it, but the way that people construct words together. Like I watched a documentary about Oasis, and if you listen to some of their lyrics, they don't even make sense.
No, they don't.
You
No.
know, slowly walking down a hall faster than a cannonball. Wrap up cold when it's warm outside. You just think,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I quite like Oasis, but yeah, when you actually a lot of songs when you actually break and seeing the words listed, you just think, what is that? And that's why I lean towards more the kind of the effects side of dance music, where I just think it's just emotion. However, that sound makes you feel, it makes you feel. You can't get past that. It's just one of those things. But it's whatever you want to interpret music to be. But I think now, the age I am, I just feel there's a lot more leaning towards the image more so than the actual content in terms of music videos. And I guess that's having a negative impact in certain ways on certain people. But that's, yeah, I just think a lot of the songs I've listened to that some of the DJs have put on their mixes, they've never even been released. It was just like a few white labels printed, that's the end of it, you know.
Yeah.
No video, no nothing, you know. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I used to have like a CD wallet full of blank CDs with felt pen that's smudged off, so you don't quite know what is anymore. And it's all just house DJs that are putting their stuff out. And there was a guy called Victor Velasco, and he had this one CD, and it was amazing. And like I'm one of these where I'll buy an album, and it's very rare that I'll listen to a full album. Even
you just
like
take the tracks off that you like.
Yeah, so I'll have just select tracks from each album. There's only been a couple of albums where I'd listen to, you know, just push play at one and just let it run through. And this, like now, I can't even tell you what songs are on it, but his name will always stick with me because that CD was one of the best CDs, and I never owned it. It was at one of our friends' house, and he knew him. And it would just sort of, we'd go there and that's the only place we got to listen to this CD. But I'll never forget him, or, you know, the feelings that came with it. I couldn't, like I say, I couldn't tell you the songs that were on it, but I just remember it was absolutely brilliant.
But yeah, so that's me. I'm just not really, I just am where I am. I just kind of like what I like, and that's so I'm a bit of I feel a bit kind of isolated at times because I don't really conform to what a lot of people believe I should conform to, or their views on what I would conform to. And sometimes when you speak to people, they're a bit kind of blown away. But
so what's the deal with the VRU then? So you've been a PCSO for nearly 13 years. But
so for me, I'm seconded in, so my secondment will end, and currently I think
what does VRU stand for?
Violence Reduction Unit.
All right, carry on.
Sorry. Yeah. So Violence Reduction Unit itself try and look at the causes, understanding, and tackling them. Of kind of youth serious crime and knife crime, and just trying to approach things a slightly different way, and work with what's out there, and, you know, trying to empower communities to attack things in a different way to what they're doing now, because everyone cares, but it's just channeling that energy in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, they've been brilliant for us. We've I say us, life experience, we've got a really, really good relationship with the VRU. They gave us some funding to run some projects through January, February, and March.
Yeah.
They gave us the ability to buy some iPads that they're all out in young people's houses that don't have equipment. And what we're doing is we're setting them audio and video tasks. So there's an app called TikTok.
Yeah.
Where we're getting them to do sort of TikTok videos, and they won't be able to do stuff like that if we didn't have the iPads to give out and put into people's houses. you know, we work with some really sort of deprived families. So to be given a laptop, to be given an iPad for them to use to do drawing, we've put drawing apps on it and stuff. It's massive for them, you know,
Yeah,
and
it has such a positive impact on probably their well-being and their general mental health, particularly during this what sort of 9th, 10th week of lockdown. You know, without that, where would they be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's allowing us to keep communicating with them, and you know, we've got some plans for the future, but the work that we're trying to do and the sort of objectives of the VRU are very similar. So I think it's going to be sort of an ongoing positive relationship.
Yeah, as I feel it has been and it will be into the future. It's just the future currently seems it's quite unknown what it's going to look like, doesn't it? You know, it feels a bit odd, really.
Worrying, you know, especially, so I've not been able to furlough. I've not had any grants. I've not qualified for any of the help that the government are handing out. So it's really tough. So I'm obviously still working. But the good thing about us is we can create projects, whatever the situation. So we'll always be relevant. You know, if we solve knife crime, if we complete knife crime and it's not a thing anymore, and no one takes drugs anymore, and there's no violence through alcohol, we ban alcohol, we ban all those things.
Yeah.
There'll be something. There will be something, and our job is to find the right people, coach them, create a project, and then deliver that. So regardless what's going on, we'll always be involved, which is brilliant for us. But yeah, it's just this time it's tough. It's really tough. You know, we sort of trying to do what we can, but you're limited. So we're currently sending out activity packs for kids and stuff. We're creating 700 packs in South Leeds, but there's restrictions on that. You know, like what ingredients can you hand out for pizzas? How many volunteers can you get in? How things like once you've bagged cheese, how long can you keep it in a fridge before it goes off? I don't know things like that. You know, we sort of what we do is completely different to this, but we're trying to adapt to make it relevant. So there's us and sort of 11 other organisations that are involved, and it's stressful. I'm not going to lie, it's been stressful, but it's
you're going
worth.
to take away some skills and some knowledge that you would never ever have had without this period, and you'll always remember it as well.
And some grey hair.
Always remember this period.
Yeah, lots of grey hair.
Lots of grey.
That's the downside to doing this. Yeah,
it comes to us all. Luckily, I can just do mine with some my beard trimmer. So I never go to my barber, so you can't get a number one wrong, can you? Really?
Well, no, you can't. Brilliant. Well, I genuinely really appreciate you coming on to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you. I hope it's been of some use.
Yeah, it's been a big learning for me. Like I say, some of the stuff that you've spoke about, it's easy to sort of assume that it doesn't still happen. And I get into quite a lot of conversations on Facebook where, you know, people are saying that, you know, racism isn't a thing anymore. And it's just, and this is white people saying that racism isn't a thing anymore. And I usually just sort of direct them towards people who experience it regularly.
Yeah. There's racism from black towards white. There's racism from Asian towards white. There's racism between black towards Asian. There's racism from white towards any other. It happens, and I always kind of think, you know, when you know someone and you just, you know, things happen. People put stuff on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, without knowing that person, and just the impact that those words can have on someone. You've got no idea. But if you were to see that person in the street, chances are you probably wouldn't say what you wanted to say.
Do you know the worst things I've heard have been on Xbox? So I go on Xbox with my nephew.
All right, okay, yeah.
And the chat in some of the games is awful. And when you comment on it, so there's an Xbox Facebook group, and if you say out on there, all the comments that people get back is, "Oh, you wouldn't have survived if you was on back in the day." I just think it's not. This isn't about comparison. So my nephew's gamer tag has LFC because he's a Liverpool fan, and it just things like the Hillsborough disaster was the funniest thing ever, and you know, comments like that, and you just think, what's die? I hope your grand dies. I hope this person dies.
People just spouting that don't realise the connotations of what they're saying.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to sort of get a little project together with Microsoft and say, you find out where these people play from.
Yeah.
We'll
Come
send,
together.
we'll send a camera crew with the police and stuff to the house and just say, do your parents know that all these things that you've said, do they think that this is acceptable?
Yeah.
And just sort of just as like a wake up call. It happened as someone called out somebody on, and it was one of these YouTubers, and he turned up at their house, and it was just like, I can't, the whole attitude and persona just completely
It's changed.
when they were there in front of them. I just think it'd be really funny, and people might learn something from it. They might not, but yeah,
It'd be good to watch.
yeah, it'd make interesting viewing, wouldn't it? Brilliant. Right, Andy, thank you very much, mate. I really, really appreciate it.
No problem. You
All
take
right.
care and stay safe during lockdown.
Yeah,
See you
you
later
too,
on.
mate. See you later.